Each Tuesday, the News Record staffers work past dusk assembling this week's paper. We spend hours editing, fact-checking, and designing to get the word out by Wednesday morning. Eventually, the coffee pot runs dry and every last dwindling desk editor clocks out and goes home.
You mean like ranch, then I just drank it.
Oh my God.
Some 20 miles away in an unassuming brick building in Batavia, another crew's workday is just beginning. It's 1 a.m. and Frances Pope is putting the final touches on a PDF of the news record. She's one of 3 members of the composition team at the Claremont Sun. They ensure there are no glaring mistakes in the paper before it goes to the press. Is this a pretty fun crew to work with? Is it sort of chummy at night? It's just all of you guys hanging out together?
Yeah, all of us together, even during the day. During the hours, we always have a lot of fun.
Frances spends almost 2 hours making small but essential adjustments like lightening each image and adjusting spacing. It's 2:45. The fine-tuning is done. The first iteration of this week's paper is etched onto iridescent plates. Modern printing ditched Gutenberg's movable type for a process that uses color. Now there are 4 versions of the news record in 4 separate colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. One massive roll passes through 4 printers that deposit colored dots onto the paper. If you look closely, you can see them. Danny Stanton has been with the Claremont Sun for 20 years. He and the boys spend almost an hour tinkering with the press's alignment to be sure all those little dots print on top of one another. Otherwise, it turns out like this and gets thrown out with the rest of the imperfect copies. After everything is properly lined up, the last step of the printing process begins. It takes roughly an hour to print all 2,800 copies of the news record, and this is just the first of 10 papers on tonight's agenda. Once the dots are appropriately placed, the sheet gets sliced down the middle, cropped into full spreadsheets, and folded. The freshly printed newspapers make their way to the stacking station, where they're tied in bundles and placed on a pallet, ready for delivery. A gang of nocturnal, ink-stained blue-collars conduct the mechanical orchestra that sings while the town sleeps. Ideas come to fruition right before your eyes. By daybreak, the stands that you see will be filled with freshly printed papers. You're part of the printing industry. Do you think that newspapers are, in fact, dying?
Yeah, only because, you need the ads to pay for it. So because legals still have to be published in a newspaper as proof to courts. That's really about the only thing that keeps our Claremont Sun, is all the legal ads, the revenue from those.
Newspapers have struggled in recent years to stay afloat. The cost of paper alone can force a publication to take the digital route, but in the midst of an industry-wide crisis, the Claremont Sun remains strong.
They're not as well. Things have changed. We don't print as many as we used to, but we still print. We print 77,000 papers a week. For the local weekly newspapers, I still think it's going to be good for a while.
What about national?
The dailies, I don't know how they're. I don't know.
Printing for 10 publications each week keeps the gears turning and the lights on at the Claremont Sun, supporting the livelihood of people like Frances, Danny, and Tony.
Yeah, I started with the news record back then, 1983, in the darkroom at night. Then I became the pre-press supervisor. Then I went into sales. Then I became the publisher. So I plan on retiring from here. So, this is my life.
Tomorrow morning, the lights will come back on at the news record and the process will start all over again. There's news to break and stories to tell. The hours are long and the pay is minimal. But we, the Fourth Estate, will sustain printed journalism through its final breath.